Yes, people, how we doing? Ricky here from Behind the Bars TV. So, as people know on my channel, I'm bringing you prison stories of my time whilst I was in prison. I'm also bringing you news of recent events and past events that's happening in the prisons, that's happening now and happening today. And I'm bringing you different news stories that's leading people into prison. But there's plenty of different topics on this channel, so if you keep watching, you will be seeing plenty of future uploads. And I'm also going to be doing some interviews soon with people that's been to prison, that's got some quite extensive prison stories and spent many of years in the prison system. But just going to talk a little bit about the different prisons that I've been into. So I've been in the young offender prisons, which is the one I was in was HMP YUI Cassington, which is up at Northumberland. Northumberland is in the northeast of England, and Cassington held young offenders from the age of 15 to 21. So the ones that were in the secure units and the detention centres up until the age of 15 were then transferred up to Cassington. But the 15 to 18 year olds were kept separate from the rest of all of us, obviously because of their age. And a lot of them used to have to do more schooling because a lot of them were still at school age. 15-year-old, you're meant to be still at school, not locked up in a prison. But so they had a lot of different routines and activities that went on. And then once they hit 18, they went up onto the bigger wings for the older lads, which was from the ages of 18 to 21. Our camera's jumping around a bit, isn't it? But yeah, that was fair, from the ages of 18 to 21. In Cassington, a lot of the lads that were in there were actually lifers. Obviously killed people and they're in there doing life sentences. But the majority of people that were in Cassington was northeast lads. Lads from Newcastle, Sunderland, County Durham, Teesside. And there was a few Carlisle lads in there, but not many. But and there's obviously lads from down the country. There was some from London, Birmingham, Manchester, and there was, when you first went in, it was D wing. D wing was the induction wing, if I remember rightly. So you go up onto D wing, and then you get moved on to the different wings. Obviously, you just stay on there. You can stay on there permanently sometimes, but mostly you get moved on to the other wings. So I went up there when I was 20-year-old. I was a couple of weeks before my 21st birthday, and I spent a few months up there. But Cassington, compared to the other prisons, is more lively. You've got more chance of getting into trouble and having fights in the young offender prisons than what you have in the adult prisons, because everyone's bouncing around, everyone's full of testosterone at that age. Yeah, and everyone's just looking to prove themselves, everyone's wanting to fucking fight. So you've got more chance of having trouble whilst you're in there. I had a few fights when I was in Cassington myself, but that was just through other lads trying to rack the big man, and obviously they got put in the places. But people that's going in, that's brand new to prison, and they're not very, let's say, not very big, because a lot of lads at that age, 18-year-old, you're still growing, so you're not very big, are you? And then you do get the bigger lads that are just fucking naturally big. So the lads that aren't as big and they're quite timid and they don't stick up for themselves do get quite a lot of grief and get bullied quite a lot. So there is a lot of that goes on in the young offender prisons. Like I say, nearly every day there's fights or there's something happening, because a couple of the fights that I had, one of them was through a pad thief, and everyone in prison hates pad thieves. It's the worst thing you can do in jail, pinch out of someone's pad. especially someone who's fucking one of the big lads on the wing. So I was on the cleaners at the time, and the cleaners always have the pads left open because obviously they're out on the wing cleaning during the day. It's one of the better jobs in prison if you want to be out your pad a lot. So I was on the cleaners and I had my pad left open, and at the time I was smoking, and it was Rollies tobacco. So I went back to my pad to make a rollie. Went to my drawer, backy wasn't there, skins weren't there, lighter wasn't there. So straight away I'm foaming, raging, straight back down to the association room where the rest of the cleaners were. They're all sitting in the room playing on the PlayStation. So I went bowling in the room, shouting my head off, saying, which one of yous have took me backy? And they're all looking at us like, as if to say, we wouldn't take you backy, we're all friends, you know, we're on the cleaners together, we've got each other's backs. So they're all just looking at us like, I know, saying, my knee fucker else has opened up, I'm going crazy at this point. And I looks out onto the association area, and there's one of the lad who opened up, some Teesside lad, just a little scruffy rat. And he'd look at us like that, and I just knew by his look. But he's standing talking to the chaplain at the time, because what happens when you first go in, I think you got to see the chaplain, ask him if you want to go to Sunday prayers. So he's standing talking to the chaplain, and I've just went flying over, saying, you've got me backy. And he put his hands up to say I haven't, but I seen it in his side of his pants down there. So I've just went fucking smashed him in front of the priest, knocked him on his arse, knocked him clean out, took me backy off him, got me lighter back. All the screws came piling over, fucking started shouting on and all that, but I've just fucking backed off and said, listen, he's got what he fucking deserved. And then I went back to my pad. Yeah, the screws come in, fucking started doing talk to see him, what are you playing at doing that in front of the priest? I says, listen, he fucking deserved it. So anyways, I still got a nicking for that. Got tucked down the block. So what happens when you get a nicking? A nicking in prison means you've got to go down to the segregation unit to see the governor, to see what kind of punishment you're going to get for what you've just done. So I got tucked down the block. When you get tucked down the block, you get chucked in a cell. What you did up there, you got chucked in a cell, yeah, with nothing in. It's just like a police station cell. You've got to sit and just lie and wait for the governor to shout if you call you up. But I went down there, sat in front of the governor. He asked you what happened and all that, why did you do it? So I just said to him, I can't look over here. I've just battered him. I just said he set his lip up. I didn't turn around and say he pinched me backy, because obviously then that would be fucking grassing him up, wouldn't it? So I just said, listen, he was setting his lip up, so I fucking give him a dig. And I got 14 days CC. So what that means is you get put back onto the wing, but obviously it's a different wing. You can't be put on the same wing as the person that you've just been fighting with. So I got put back on the wing. 14 days behind my door. Bearing in mind I've only been in the prison about 2 weeks. So you're behind your door, you're not allowed no association, you're not allowed contact with other prisoners, you're allowed out for 10 minutes a day to have a shower, you get your telly took off you, you've got nothing in your pad at all, apart from your bed and your cabinet, and you've got like prison issue uniform, which is joggy bottoms and a joggy top. But obviously I knew a few lads on the wing, and some of them were cleaners, which ones were opened up all the time. So when I got opened up for me 10 minutes association, one of the lads went to me pad and chucked a hi-fi under me bed. So every time I was banged up in me pad, I was, instead of sitting watching the telly, I was just lying on my bed, fucking lost in my thoughts, just listening to the radio and reading through me Nuts magazines, because that's what it was back in the day, Zoo and Nuts magazines. Yeah, so I've been in there, had another couple of fights after that, but then I turned 21 and I got moved down to Durham Prison, which was obviously the adult prison. So in Durham Prison, yeah, when you get off the bus, you look up and it's a big old Victorian jail, and you know you're in jail when you get to Durham, when you get off that bus and you look up and you just think, fucking hell, you can just feel the atmosphere even before you even seen any of the lads. It just felt like it was a doom and gloom. It was just a horrible place. I know prison's not meant to be a good place, but with it being an old Victorian prison, and not like a new prison with a new feel. It's like, fucking hell, welcome to the shithole. But once you get into Durham, you get processed. You go up into reception room. So you go up the stairs, go up into reception. Got to give all your details to the screws. You've got to get strip searched, take all your clothes off you, check you, pat you, make you squat, turn around. The usual rigmarole when you land in a new prison. And this is where you get to meet a lot of the lads, or a lot of the people that are just coming in from the courts, fresh in off the streets, come straight from the court, being remanded. And the majority of them are just, that have just come off the streets, are just junkies, heroin addicts, crackheads, pissheads, and they're all straight away just on the graft for looking for drugs and that. But obviously you do meet a few good lads out of the 100 you meet, you will meet about 5 decent lads. That's what it's normally like in the prisons. But you get put on, when you get to Durham, you go down to E Wing, which is the induction wing. I think when I first went there, I think C Wing was actually the induction wing. Yeah, C Wing was the smallest wing in the prison. Well, no, sorry, it's not, because you've got, was a G Wing, which was like a little unit type, but C Wing was one of the smallest wings in the prison. If you put your hands out side by side, put your hands out like that, you can touch each wall. And 2 of you have got to live in there. You've got your double beds, your bunk beds. You've got a chair so someone can sit on the chair while the other one is lying on the bunk. And you've got a toilet at the end of the beds. And the toilets were even tiny as well. You've got a tiny little sink about that big and not enough to fit 2 of your hands in. And the little toilet, like I say, is at the end of the bed. And there's nothing worse than when you're needing a shit, or if your padmate needs a shit, and he jumps on the toilet when you're sitting there like absolute about 3 foot away. The windows didn't open properly. But the stench that used to come off your padmate, I mean, even off me, if I'm sitting having one of my padmates got to sit and suffer me. But in prison we used to do what you call shit and flush, which is if you don't want it to smell as bad, as you're shitting, you turn around and you're flushing the toilet as you're shitting, so it just quickly gets washed away. Instead of shitting, sometimes it takes you 10 minutes to have a shit, doesn't it? So instead of just sitting having a shite and leaving it for 10 minutes in there, you do the shit and flush, get rid of it. Or sometimes you used to wait until you wrote on association, because used to be toilets at the end of the landings, but they were absolutely rotten, them ones, because the cleaners didn't clean them properly. But Durham, Durham was a Cat B remand prison. So anyone like a Cat C's or Cat B can't go there. Even Cat D prisoners go, like when you get sent from the courts, you go to Durham, then you get recategorised. Some lads go to Cat D prisons, some go to Cat C's, some go to Cat B's, and some also go to Cat A's, high security prisons. You can even be made Cat A from Durham prison. Because Durham did used to be a Cat A prison, but it's now a Cat B, I think, a Cat B remand prison. So I'd been in Durham, I spent about 10 months in Durham. And it wasn't too bad. I was on C Wing, and then I got moved over onto B Wing. I've been on B Wing a couple of times. When I went back in, I went back onto B Wing, because I think B Wing seemed to have a better set of lads on there, more of the proper lads who were on there. And when I was in there, I don't know, I went into workshops. Forgetting what it was woodwork, I think. I was doing woodwork in the workshops, going to the gym as much as possible, and just keeping my mind occupied. But at the time I was still on remand, waiting to go and get sentenced. Well, waiting to go to trial, sorry. So I went to trial, got found guilty, got sentenced. Like 5 minutes later, no pre-sentence reports or anything. The judge says, I want to sentence this man today. My barrister looked at us and said, you might as well get sentenced, because it doesn't matter what you say or what your probation says. If you get reports, you're going to get IPP. So the judge gave us 4 years IPP, an indeterminate sentence for public protection. So back in Durham prison, and I was waiting about 6 months, because when you're back in Durham, you can put in which prisons you want to go to. You get 3 choices, or you used to then. Yeah, you get 3 choices where you want to go to, and I just said straight away, blatantly, I want to go to Frankland Prison. Yeah, because it was only 5 minutes away from Durham Prison, and my dad was in there at the time. So I think it took a few months. I kept on to me every day saying, when am I going to Frankland? Oh, some of the lads on Association when they used to hear us saying, when am I going to Frankland? They'd be saying, fucking hell, you mad? Why do you want to go there? You don't want to go there. It's a naughty prison, that. But I went to Frankland, and I spent 3 years in Frankland. And Frankland's a cat-ear, high security prison, dispersal prison. There's only 5 of them in the country. You've got Frankland, Long Lawton, Whitemoor, Full Sutton and Wakefield. You've also got another couple of prisons that's got the units on. That's for the cat-ear high risk prisoners, which is Belmarsh, Woodhill and Strangeways. So some of the lads that are in Frankland gets moved around the systems, the cat-ear prisoners, even the high risk ones. So they get moved to the 5 dispersals, and they also get moved to the 3 with the cat-ear high security units. So they've got like 8 places where they keep circulating the high risk lads, and the ones that are hard to control are the ones that have got a bit of a name, a reputation. So Frankland, I was recategorised as a Cat B prisoner. So even though Frankland's a Cat A high security prison, it does hold Cat A prisoners and Cat B prisoners. And that's when you're in there, you've got to do your courses and everything, show that you've got good behaviour. Then you get moved on, you get recategorised. But I was in Frankland for 3 years, and I've seen quite a lot of things happening in Frankland. Quite a lot of naughty things, a lot of violent things. There was more violent situations and things in Frankland than what there is in the other prisons, or the intensity of the violence is more severe. Because when you're in Frankland, the lads that are in there are serious, big time gangsters, and there's no messing around. If they're gonna get you, or they want revenge on you, or you're having a fight and something happens afterwards, the reprisals that come back, it's not just going to be beat up with your fists or hit over the head with a chair leg. It's going to be sharp objects. You're going to be getting cut up. You're going to be getting hot oiled, or they're going to try and take your eye out. It's like serious. If you get trouble in them prisons, you're fucked. Unless you've got the backup and or you're not arsed and you're just going to attack yourself, then you've got to be very careful in them prisons. But I went through my time in Frankland without any bother. There was only one time when I got into a little bit of an altercation, but it was just with some lad. He was a bit of a fucking half-wit, and it was in the art class, because in Frankland I used to go to art class. So when I was in the art class, this lad, he used to keep trying to take the piss, but he's a bit simple, and I was getting a bit sick of it. He used to keep fucking calling us because my dad was on the same wing as us. He was shouting, fucking calling us daddy's boy. We're saying that to someone who's already a bit hot-headed. I used to just let it go, but this one day he said daddy's boy, and I fucking picked I picked one of the things up in the classroom that were used for the oil paintings to scrape the oil off. It's like a sharp object. I tell him, I said, I picked that up. I said, shut the fuck up, or this is getting put straight in your eye. Obviously I didn't mean it, but I was just angry at the time. I was only 21-year-old and hot-headed. And I think he realised then, and then he just clamped up, and he didn't say nothing more after that was sort of got on. I just sort of didn't really speak to him. But things like that, situations, you can get into serious trouble in them places if someone's being cheeky to you. I mean, if he'd said that to the wrong person who was worse, like hot-headed to fuck, he would have gotten seriously hurt, you know. But you've just got to know how to handle these situations and know how to present yourself. Because when you're in, like I say, when you're in the high security estate, if you're out on the wing and you're looking at someone in a certain way and you're giving them a funny look, or someone's giving you a funny look, it's going to go off big style. Like, you're not just going to go and fucking slap them, you're going to go and fucking mental, aren't you? But this is the type of scenarios I'm talking about in Frankland, and I've spoke about some of the violent offences that I seen whilst I was in Frankland plenty of times on my other videos and on the podcasts that I've done, so I'll not go into them too much. But I've seen people getting hot oil tipped over them, skin peeling off their heads. One of them was a terrorist. Then another terrorist done it to one of the Geordie lads. I seen a lad getting stabbed in the neck with a coffee jar full of chili powder, rammed in his neck, twisted. All the chili powder went in his cut. Seen someone getting stabbed in the neck with a big spike about that long. He was on the walkway coming back from the workshops. We're walking up and you've got a, you're just in a sort of a cage everywhere you go in Franklin. You've got the big metal fences, I'd say they're about fucking 20 foot high, with barbed wire on the top. And this is just on the walkway coming back from the workshops. And this lad off the other wing, off G wing, because we all got mixed in as we're walking back together, he was getting a lad on my wing, on F wing, and one of the lads I was walking with, he said, watch this. He nudged us, he says, watch what's going to happen here. So I was watching and the lad just went jogging up, jogging past, and he had the spike and he just went bang, just rammed it in his neck, pulled it out and just kept on running. Bits of blood fucking squirting out his neck, and the lad was like that. He hadn't even realised what had happened. But that's the type of things that you see in Franklin. Naughty acts of violence. If you're going to get done in Franklin, you're getting done properly. So a bit of advice, if anyone ends up there, just keep your head down, get on with your drill, and don't get involved in none of the politics. So after about 3 years in there, I got moved back up to Accrington, HMP Accrington. Cassington and Accrington is now one big prison. It's now HMP Northumberland. But I've done a full circle. I went from Cassington to Durham to Franklin, back to Accrington. So it's a big loop all the way back up there. Now I was into my 5th year whilst I got there. And Accrington, which is now HMP Northumberland, is a Category C prison. And again, once you go from the high security estate down to a Cat C prison, you've got a total different class of prisoner. Back up there, you're just amongst everyone that's on drugs. Excuse me. Everyone's off their heads on drugs. They're just running around like, they look like scruffs, because you can wear your own clothes up there, but the majority of them just run around with the grey prison tracksuit on. With the grey prison tracksuit makes you look scruffy. Most people that haven't got anything is the ones that run around with the tracksuits on. And these are the ones that are always on the drugs. But you did see quite a bit of fighting up there. I mean, mostly it was over drugs. But when you got up there, I think D wing was the induction wing. Then you get moved on to the other wings. I got moved on to E wing, which is right next door to D wing. And then you had what we used to call the Bronx, which was F and G wing, which was the rough wings, and there was always something happening on there. But when you got exercise, we all got exercise together, so there was like D, E, F and G, and you all walked round in the middle of the yard. And see, in a yard it was like a grassed area with a path going round, but everyone walked around the pathed area, and it was a big circle onto the yard. Like I say, all the wings mixed in. But I'll tell you a little thing about exercise yards. Every exercise yard you go onto in prison, the prisoners walk anti-clockwise. It's well, the majority of them they do. I was just doing it that way. It's the other way actually. So when you're on the yard, most of them, everyone's walking anti-clockwise. I don't know if it's a bit of a fucking reaction whilst you're in prison, like fucking instead of going the right way, we're going the wrong way. I just thought I'd let you know that little thing, because a couple of the lads we've spoke about it before said, have you ever noticed when you're on the yard, you're always walking anti-clockwise? But a lot of the times you used to see some of the fights, and the fights would happen on the yard. And I remember, I think I was on E-Wing with a kid from Sunderland, Ratty, good lad. Shout out to Ratty. I think he's in Long Lawton at the minute. Hope he gets on. Got a big stretch the last time. But Ratty was a good kid in prison. He was a quiet lad. Just got on with his time. Didn't let no one fuck about with him. Strong fucker in the gym as well. But we were walking around the yard together, and there was a kid off F wing shouting at him from behind. He was walking behind us, and it's the first time I've seen Ratty have a fight. And well, I wouldn't even say it was a fight. Ratty just obliterated him. The kid shouting at Ratty, giving him loads of grief, and Ratty was like trying not to, didn't want nothing to do with it. But the kid kept going, so Ratty just turned around, bang, 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 fucking smashed him to bits in about 3 seconds, chucked about 10 combos, just knocked the kid straight out on the floor. Just kept on walking. Screws didn't get onto it or not. But that was just some of the things that happened up there. Like I say, up in them prisons most of the time, it's normally just dealt with the fists. There was a couple of slashings whilst I was up there, because they used to call it slashlinting. But it wasn't all the time. Most people, like I say, they would either use the fists or use table legs. And so I'd done just over 5 years at that point when I went up for parole. And I got released when I was 25. Went in when I was 20, got out when I was 25. And when I got out, I had a total different head on my shoulders what I did when I went in the first time. First time I was looking forward to jail. I wanted to go to prison, the mindset I was in. I was always fascinated by prison from a young age. And most people, when the kids have dreams of being a fireman or going in the army or doing something good with their lives, all I wanted to do was get into bother, inflict violence on people and go to prison. And I got what I wished for. Looking back, what a fucking stupid mindset to be in, but you can't change the past, and look at us now, totally different person. But I got out when I was 25, total different head on my shoulders, business minded, got out, set a few businesses up and become quite successful. I'd been out for over 9 years, 9.5 years, without being in trouble with the police or anything. And then I ended up getting recalled for aggravated vehicle taking, because I bought a stolen vehicle and ended up crashing it whilst I was drunk. Ran away, left it. 6 months later, was in my recovery truck going to pick a car up, and because obviously I was buying and selling cars at the time, that's why I had a stolen car. And I got pulled off the road by 10 police cars. It was just a couple at first. I kept looking in the mirrors. I was thinking, what the hell's going on here? And then all of a sudden, they just all boxed us in. And the reason why they had so many coppers, because anyone that's got a violent past on the record, they'll all know what I'm talking about. A couple of coppers can't apprehend you, especially if they're recalling you to prison in case you go mental on them. So it took 10 busy cars, boxed us in. They wouldn't tell us what it was for until they got us in the back of their busy car. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, fuck. And I thought I'd getting away with the car incident, put me DNA. Come back, was on the airbag 6 months later. So obviously, as you can imagine, I was absolutely devastated going back to prison after all that time. Especially when I'd made a success in my life, married, 4 kids, had a couple of businesses going, making good money. Got recalled. And I ended up back in Durham prison. So it was nearly 10 years to the day when I got my IPP, when I got sentenced first when I was 20-year-old. And here I am, back in nearly 9.5 years later. Back in the same prison. In fact, I think I got the dates mixed up a little bit there. But anyways, I ended up back in prison. Fucking HMP Durham, back on E-Wing, same rigmarole, back on B-Wing. And believe it or not, the majority of the lads, it's like going back in time. The most of the lads that were in there were the lads that were in previously, the previous tenure. But they're just been in and out because that was their lifestyle, in and out all the time. And because obviously Durham's just a remand prison. So I ended up back on B-Wing. I was on the cleaners, got in with a couple of good lads. And to fill our time, and I was on the cleaners with a kid called Darren Towler. I think he's on his tours at the minute. He's wanted by the busies. And what we used to do, Darren's a cage fighter, MMA fighter. So to fill our time, and we used to go in the PIDS room. The PIDS stands for Prisoner Information Desk. This is like a job role that the prisoner gets to tell the other prisoners what's happening in the prison, or if they need any information or help how to fill the canteens in on the kiosk, or how to fill application forms in. So what we used to do is, because we were on the cleaners, we used to get a bit extra time out. We used to have about an hour spare, and we used to go in this room at the end of the wing. We used to take our mattresses in, pile them all up on the floor as if it's like a matting area. and about 4 or 5 of us used to have a bit roll about doing a bit MMA to fill our time in. Obviously, Towel, I've been well experienced in that area. I always came out on top, but we'll give him a good try. But I was back in Durham. I was only in there a couple of months, and then I got moved down to Home House, and Home House is now a Category C prison. So obviously I was Cat C, went down to Home House. First time I'd been there, so now I've done nearly all the jails in the northeast, all the men's prisons, apart from the Cat D prison and Lower Newton. So I've done 5 prisons in the northeast in that time. And Home House, as you're walking up to go onto the wings, you're looking round and it looks like a shithole. It looks rough as fuck from the outside when you're looking at the windows of the wings. But I went to house block 5, and that was quite a new wing. They used to call it the birdcage because of the set out. And it wasn't a bad wing, that, and I was on there for a few weeks, and this was just before Christmas. But at the time I had a pad mate, and I hated having pad mates. It was doing me nothing. I ended up getting a single pad, and ended up getting moved over onto house block 1. Obviously, because I tilt the screws, I ended up flipping in the end because I wouldn't listen to us, and I ended up I lost my head with the screws. And they said, "Listen, calm yourself down. We're gonna get you a single pad." So they put us in a single pad over on house block 1, and I was spent about 14 months in Home House, back in on that recall. I had to go through the same rigmarole again, waiting for hearings, waiting to hear back off my solicitor, probation, putting reports in. Anyone that's been on a recall, especially IPP or a lifer, it's an absolute headache. It's the most stressfulest thing ever. It tests the most patient of men. It's absolutely horrendous. I wouldn't wish it on my worst fucking enemy. Well, apart from pedos, they all deserve to be in there. But I went back in there waiting for that parole hearing. But what happens when you come up for a parole hearing? You get recommendations off your probation. And at first they weren't even recommending me release. Bearing in mind I was only in for a car offence. Fair enough, it was a stolen car. But it wasn't like actually a massive, massive crime. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I ended up in there. And like I say, probation weren't recommending release. I was thinking, fucking hell, I've been in nearly a year, and yet they weren't recommending release. I was thinking, how long do they actually want to suspend in here? For the actual sentence, I got 8 months for the car. So I would have been out after 4 months, or I probably would have gotten a suspended sentence with not being in prison that long. But with us being IPP on a recall, I spent all that time back in. And then I went and done the ETS course. I think it was called TSP now, actually. I'd done the TSP course, and then the recommended release. So it goes up in front of the parole board, and the parole board, you've got 3 panel members, and you've got your probation officer, and your solicitor, sorry. So I think there's about 5 altogether, but you've got the head of the parole panel is actually a judge, and then you've got 2 other panel members, and they, believe you me, they give you a hard time. You're in there for a couple of hours, fighting for your life. They're hammering loads of questions at you. It's like being in court on trial. You're getting totally hammered. They're trying to push your patience because they want you to flip on the parole board, and then they can turn around and say, well, you've acted aggressively, so we're not recommending your release. But obviously I needed to get back out. I needed to get back to my family, my wife, my kids. I kept my head down when I was in there. So I went on the parole board and I put up a good fight for my freedom. And one of the things that they were mentioning on the parole board was police intelligence. They said they had police intelligence that I was supplying drugs in the local area, which was a load of bollocks, which had just come from the police to try and stop us from getting out of prison. But when the question is on that, I said, right, I've been out 9.5 years. I said, my house has never been raided. I've never been pulled over in the street. I've never been pulled in my car and searched. So how can they say I'm this big dealer that they're putting across, but they've never actually pulled us in the street or anything like that? So the parole member, the head of the parole board, just turned around and said, right, we're dismissing that. We'll not take that any further. Obviously nothing's been done about it, so we're just letting that go. And obviously I got granted release. I had to wait 2 weeks for my answer, so I'm back on my pad, Stu, and bearing in mind it's during COVID, 23-hour lockdown, and I got granted release, and that was 18 months ago, 2020 it was, can't even remember now, 2021, last year, got out January last year, and done quite a lot since I've been out, but yeah, I've went on quite a bit there, but I just wanted to give you a bit of background about prison and a few different things. Obviously, this is prison stories. So if you do like the content, please like and subscribe. But I've done a few videos. I'm waiting for them to upload properly onto my YouTube. I'll be releasing them in the next couple of days. And yeah, just keep watching, people. Plenty of content to come. Enjoy the rest of your day, people. Take care.